This is my third time filming this video because I have deleted it twice. And if it doesn't work this time, I'm not posting a wrap up this month. Hi guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader and welcome to my April wrap up, and all the books I read this month were part of the Owls Read-A-Thon, which was Harry Potter themed, and each subject had a challenge that you had to fulfill to pass the exam. I am going to fly through these because, as I said, the video the first time didn't record, and the second time I accidentally freaking deleted it when I was trying to make my thumbnail. So I'm going to fly through these nice and quickly today. For Ancient Runes, you had to read something with a symbol on the cover. Symbol, I read City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This was an urban YA fantasy. I didn't think I was going to like it. I loved it. It was fun, fast paced, and just really enjoyable and light. I enjoyed the characters and the world it was set in. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars and I cannot wait to continue the series. Arithmancy, read a book with numbers on the cover. I picked Time Riders by Alex Scarrow. You can kind of see dates down here because the Time Riders are like the police of time travel. If someone time travels and messes up the future, they have to go back and fix it. I fell in love with Alex Scarrow last year when I read his adult books. This is YA, and it didn't have the same kind of distinct and atmospheric feel that I think his writing had in his adult books, which really let me down. But this is earlier works of his. It was written a couple of years beforehand, so I'm hoping as the series progresses then maybe it'll get more into distinctive style. And I didn't really like the characters, but I thought the concept is really interesting and the world seems very well thought out, so I will be continuing with the series even though I only gave this a 3 out of 5 star. Astronomy, read a sci-fi. I tried Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I tried it before and DNF'd it. Boyfriend pushed me to read it because he loves it and I hate it. I don't understand Adam's writing style. I don't understand the concept. I think it was utterly stupid and a waste of time. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, and that's only because I save 1 stars for books with offensive content. Care of Magical Creatures. Read a book about a magical creature. I picked Charm Life by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the first in the World of Chestermancy series. It's kind of just your middle grade kids. They become orphans, they've got magical powers, they go to live with this weird magician, end up saving the world, yada yada. There's a dragon in this, so that ticks our magical creature, and this was a lot of fun. I liked the writing style and I thought the world was pretty unique in how the magic works, so I'm going to try and hunt down the rest of this series, and I give it a 4 out of 5 star. Charms, read a fantasy book, and I chose The Spindlers by Lauren Oliver. This was a bit of a letdown. I read Liesl and Poe by Lauren Oliver last year, and that was her other middle grade work. The Spindlers is about our main character's little brother wakes up one morning and doesn't seem himself, and that's because the Spindlers have stolen their soul. So the little girl has to go on an adventure to get her brother's soul back, and it's just sort of, she goes into the magical world and finds the soul and brings it back, and I didn't think it was overly unique or special. I didn't think the writing was magical. There was no big major plot twists in it, so I thought it was just okay and give it a 4 out of 5 star. For Defense Against Dark Arts, you had to read a book with a secret society. I picked The Austere Academy, which is the 5th in the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. In the end of this book, they find out about a secret society, VFD. They don't know what it stands for, but they know it has something to do with their parents' death, and then the rest of the series kind of homes on, and that's kind of secret society figuring out what's going on and who's a part of it. Plot line. So I picked this one, and I feel like it ticked the box. Divination. Read a book about prophecies. I picked Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is first in the series. Loved it the first time, loved it the second time, 5 out of 5. Rick Riordan's writing is really funny and unique. His world building is incredibly well thought out. His characters are good, and I just love the over... Cat's now knocking the camera. Thank you, turn it. I love the overall concept of these books, and I think I will be rereading the series because I thoroughly enjoyed this. Herbology. Read a book with a nature-related word in the title. I picked Autumn by Ali Smith. This is a very popular book in the UK. I wasn't going to read it because I heard it was very literary fiction, it was very poetically written, and it's kind of about current political times, which doesn't really interest me, but I found it for 50p in a charity shop and thought, I'll find out what it's all about, and I'm so glad I picked this up. It was a 5 out of 5 read for me. I think the storytelling was unique, the writing was beautifully done, and the story really hit home for me. I felt it was very heartfelt, raw, genuine, relatable, and just beautifully done. And it was not only eye-opening but thought-provoking, and I think it's hard sometimes to get that balance. But I think Ali Smith done it well, and I will be reading more of her work. For History of Magic, you had to read historical fiction. I chose The Shadow of the Hangman by Edward Marston. This is really a mystery book, but it's set in 1815, so I think check on the historical fiction. It wasn't what I thought going in. The mystery aspect was quite good, but there was a lot of action aspect, which I don't really like in books. It was just a 3 out of 5 star. It was meh. The writings were okay, the characters were okay, the storyline was okay, but it was nothing spectacular. For Muggle Study, she had to read a non-fiction book. I read The Descent of Man by Grayson Perry, who is a UK artist, and the book was kind of, oh, can't show that one, it's got naughty bits in it. The book is kind of littered through with his kind of little sketchy comic book. Can't show that one either. There's a lot of naughty pictures in here, but it's about masculinity in our current society, and like toxic masculinity, and how the idea of what's feminine and what being a woman means has changed over the last 50, 100 years. But what being a man means hasn't really, and how that really affects young men growing up in today's society, and sort of the idea of men commit most of violent crimes, and there's high suicide rate in young men and all that kind of things, and what society needs to do to change and to help these young men just to understand themselves and feel more comfortable within themselves without having this kind of large weight put upon their shoulders. And I think it was a really interesting spin. I didn't agree with everything that was said in the book, but I thought he brought forward discussion points well. He pointed out good things, and he put his view across very articulately and fairly. So I definitely think this is a really interesting read if you're at all interested in that sort of topic. For potions, you had to read a book with alchemy in it. I chose The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This was a reread for me. Loved it, loved it, loved it. 5 out of 5 star. We'll read it many, many, many times, I am sure. My edition is only like 90 pages, so I urge you, if you haven't read it, to do it. It's so good. It's so well written. It's really succinct. There's a really creepy atmosphere about the whole thing. And the sort of moral dilemmas that are brought up are still really thought-provoking, even, I don't know, like 100 years after it was written. Like, still the same issues persist. And I would say to you, if you think you know the story but haven't read the book, because I had seen there's been adaptations in Tom and Jerry and everything, but it's not what you think it is. It's so much more. It really is a good book. And finally, I read Twister by Juliet Forrest. This was for Transfiguration, and you had to read a book about transfiguration, and there is some shape-shifting in this book. It's a book about a young girl whose father has disappeared, and her whole family kind of goes to bits. It's kind of heartbreaking and very raw and real in that aspect, but she's on a quest to find her father, and there's some magical things that happen. It's set in Southern America. That's not outright said, but by their accents, they have that Southern twang to them, and the way the dialogue flows, it's almost very poetic. It gives it a real, almost beat to it, which I found really, really enjoyable to read. Normally, I hate reading books where the accent comes through in the dialogue, because with my dyslexia, I find that very, very hard, like for my brain to take in. But the way this was done, as I said, it had a rhythm and had a beat. It was very poetic, almost rhyming in like the flow of the dialogue. It made it a lot easier to read, and I thought it was really uniquely written. So even though I wasn't a major fan of the story, I felt like the first half like took place here, and then the whole last half was shoved in here, and it wasn't really split up evenly. But I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I definitely think it's interesting in its writing style, if not its story. So that was my wrap up for April. I finished all 12 books. I completed all 12 subjects of my IELTS, and that makes me incredibly pleased, because going on to NEWTs later in the year, it means my field is open. I've passed all my IELTS, so the subjects I can pick for my NEWTs will be more varying. I hope you've had a good reading month. Let me know down below if you've read any of these or want more information on them. Did you have a good reading month? Did you have fun reading this month? Because that's the most important thing. I hope you're all happy. I hope you're all healthy. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.